Part 70. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 692. We played around until evening to check out the weather. Although we were a little rushed, there was no problem in getting home. It's just that the enthusiastic Admiral Ant prepared dinner early even after everyone said she would go back that day, and in the end she could only say I'm sorry. During the lively dinner, Sugu once again experienced the power of Auntie. It's obviously enough, but you insist on eating more, but in the end you have no choice but to eat an extra half bowl of rice. After dinner, he walked until he was 99. Sugu decided to take a walk. Of course, he didn't go far. The garrison was built on a higher ground, and there was a viewing platform outside the living room. He went there. It's just that you can't see much scenery at night, but you can see the sky full of stars when you look up. The stars are so beautiful. Sugu leaned against the guardrail of the viewing platform, not showing off his voice, when Colorado walked up to him. In fact, he is a very tacky person. Sugu has no feelings for Fangxing, but he will not pour cold water on him. Colorado bent down and put his hands on the guardrail. Admiral, you are very capable. I see you have eaten 3 bowls of rice. I have to eat it. Sugu had a helpless expression. You don't have to eat if you can't eat. I can eat it, but I don't want to eat that much. The bowl is not big, and to Sugu, 3 bowls of rice is just a small thing. Lose weight. Sugu touched his belly. His well-defined abdominal muscles were actually not that obvious. He said, do I still need to lose weight for a standard figure like me? I just don't want to eat so much. It's almost fine otherwise, the stomach will get bigger and bigger. The braised chicken is good, and the braised prawns are good. Not bad. But not as good as Yuxian's craftsmanship. Colorado complained, you have said it many times. Sure enough, to capture a man's heart, you must first capture his stomach. I only know that Akagi has become a prisoner of Yuxian delicacies. Eat up Akagi. Helena said Akagi has grown up and become younger. Sugu said, she is much younger and has become a girl. I think it's very stressful for Ruhi to call her sister Akagi. Remember that Akagi was picked up by the Admiral. When the 7-day reward box for daily sign-in was opened in Akagi, Sugu said, rather than picking it up, let's say we met at the beach. Admiral's pretty ones can be found in Akagi. I didn't. The sea breeze was strong at night, and Colorado straightened his short hair that was messed up by the wind. Remember that I will join the garrison at night. To be honest, Suguji didn't know when Colorado was built. He seemed to remember it before going to bed. However, Colorado said it all, and Sugu nodded in affirmation. Originally bent over with his hands on the guardrail, but now standing straight and leaning on the guardrail, Colorado thought for a while and said, the Admiral's initial ship is the Firefly, and then the Javelin. Sugu smiled bitterly. How could he remember so much? He said, I don't remember. But you still remember. A ship girl attaches great importance to feelings and remembers everything. Not as good as you. It's good to know. Should I join the garrison first, or should Lexington join the garrison first? Thinking about it carefully, but the memory was too vague, Sugu said, I remember you joined the garrison first, but Lexington said she should go first. Colorado shook his head, tisk, 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 you are the Admiral, you can't remember. Sugu was speechless. From a distance, he saw Sheng Sheng standing at the door of the living room, but did not come over. Colorado said, Maid, God of War, 29 Festival Nelson, and dashing. I have seen more than one Sheng Sheng in these years, and they are not as good as our family's reputation. After all, the reputation without transformation was much worse. Sugu nodded. Colorado can be said to be the senior and veteran of the garrison, and few people are older than her qualifications. I still remember the lion. When I saw her for the first time, I really felt like a queen. She had brilliant golden curly hair, wearing a crown, holding a lion's head scepter, and a huge ruby on it. I don't know what to call her skirt, a whalebone skirt, a big tutu or something. Everyone is beautiful, but she is the only one who makes me gorgeous. A feeling of Sugu remembered clearly when the lion was built. I just got off work and was about to go to dinner. There was nothing special about it, but I just built one. When I saw the construction bar showing 6 hours, I was confused. I decisively used quick construction. I obviously had no idea at the time. Mensin brought his own lion, which was indeed true. He said, "It's a pity that there is no news about the lion until now. Except for her, I have never seen the battleship lion. It is very rare, someone as powerful as her should not be unknown." Sugu was non-committal, "Then I don't know. Speaking of it, I was originally serving as the flagship and secretary ship, but when the lion came, I immediately stepped down." Colorado remembered clearly that he had just joined the garrison and there were only a few people there. Due to his status as a capital ship, he easily became a secretary ship. The lion appeared and all was lost. But I didn't care at the time. If my initial favorability was 50, and my full favorability was 100, my favorability would probably be a little over 50 or 60. Sugu smiled awkwardly. The fighting ability of the lion in the 6-star colored leather boat was unparalleled. The standing painting could be said to be at its peak. It was difficult for him to have a standing painting comparable to the lion before he gave up. There was no way to refuse at that time. The lion is really strong, so it's natural that the admiral cares more about her. "You are very strong now." Colorado punched, "I am big 7, of course I am very strong. My sisters have grown up, and they have also become very strong. Maryland has become an aggressive Mary, while my little sister West Virginia is in a tangle, not knowing what should be done. Admiral, you can advise her on which direction to go." Okay, Sugu thought to himself, if it were a game, would this be considered selecting skills? Growing up in Maryland, growing up in West Virginia, Colorado suddenly laughed. "I think of the powerful Lafayette growing up, and you were very unwilling to do so. I still think little Lafayette is cute. If Lafayette hadn't transformed and become unusually powerful, especially since there were bugs at the time, Larishan and Ling Zhangxian's combat prowess would have been simply too much, otherwise Sugu would have really been reluctant to part with him. A cute Lolita with little tiger teeth, Dopo is so cute that she turned into a girl after modification, which is a pity." "Lolacan," Colorado scolded. Sugu defended, "It's just love. Working on the front line, I have seen a lot of various ship girls." Colorado asked, "Has the Admiral seen the destroyer Benson-class Lafayette?" "No, but I have 2 Lexingtons, the Lexington class and the Essex class." Colorado mocked, "I heard, MRS Essex class Lexington dumpling, the Admiral is so powerful." They were shouting, "MRS dumpling, it's nothing." Speaking of this, Sugu wanted to beat up York City and Nevada. He didn't have a clue and dared to spread anything. Especially when you clamor afterward, "Since you dare to do it, is there anything else you dare not do?" Although the misunderstanding was eventually resolved, there was no way to completely eliminate the impact. Lexington also joked, "Don't look at CV-16's cold and indifferent iceberg beauty, lace panties, cold on the outside and hot on the inside." It was obvious that there was no trust. Colorado said, "There is only a wrong name, not a wrong nickname. Since CV-16 is MRS dumpling, something must have happened to you." Sugu's expression was firm, "No." Colorado looked suspicious. "Helena said everything." "Does Helena have such a big mouth?" Colorado angrily said, "Admiral, you don't know that Helena is dancing more now." "Have it?" "Of course she won't jump in front of you," Colorado said. "Then I'll teach her a lesson then." I see you have been taught a lesson. Do you think it's possible? Yes. Even if it's sexual harassment, Helena wouldn't dare to resist you, your powerful admiral. It looks like it will be a lifelong stain. Despite this, there was no embarrassment. Sugu explained, please, it's in the past, don't mention it again. And I'm married to Helena now. We are husband and wife, so that doesn't count as sexual harassment. Excuse me. Sorry. Colorado hesitated to speak, and after being silent for a long time, she spoke, I remember that you always seem to give out rings very casually, rather than utilitarian. Lexington is your wife. I think that when you married her, it was mainly for the wedding dress. In my impression, I put on my wedding dress and never took it off again. Sugu hesitated, remembering that he thought it was stupid to spend money on games. Because of this, there were not enough beds at first, and many ships with insufficiently beautiful or rare graphics were dismantled. Of course I maximized the use of the only ring I had. It was given to Lexington, who was getting dressed up after the wedding. She also really liked the wedding dress portrait. Later, who would have thought that the game would be controlled by the brain, and I would buy one ring after another, although the utilitarianism was still the same. Colorado continued, although sister-in-law Saratoga is very strong, remember that she got the ring quickly because of her wedding dress. It's just that her dress looked like a bridesmaid's dress and it didn't look as good as Lexington's wedding dress. Before the Valkyrie event, Tirpitz grew up and got the ring because he became stronger. Prestige, Hood, Prince of Wales, Lion, Bismarck, everyone got the ring because they were strong. It's really shameful. If you are weak, you won't get it no matter what. To the ring. Sugu remained silent, unable to argue. Colorado put her hands on the railing and rested her head on it. She asked, many people in the town hall like the Admiral. Does the Admiral know? Sugu replied, I know. I thought it was no big deal, I just said it if I liked it, there was no such thing as hesitation. Colorado looked at Sugu, I like it too. Yes, Sugu didn't know how to answer. I'm not the initial ship, and I'm not even the first person to like the Admiral. After all, Colorado resigned from its position as flagship and secretary ship very early, and everyone stopped communicating. Lexington, Reputation, Hood, Lion, Tyre BAs, Akagi, Saratoga, as everyone joined the garrison one by one, sorties and drills were no longer available. I can't even remember when the Admiral thought of me again. Then I became a secretary ship, had the opportunity to practice, and started to become stronger, and started to like the Admiral. Sugu pursed his lips, yeah. Actually, Colorado is probably quite beautiful, and her figure is as confident as anyone's. Colorado is beautiful. Whether the Admiral likes me or not, I like the Admiral. It's not just like that, I want the relationship to go further. You can do it, Colorado encouraged herself, and finally made up her mind. She smiled, Admiral. As expected, I still like the Admiral. Marry me. Sugu was confused. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 693. Returning to the living room from the viewing platform, Sugu saw the head maid with her hands on her white apron, half smiling. With embarrassment on his face, Consultant Su said, Did you see it? I saw it, Reputation replied. As a maid, it is natural for her to pay attention to her master's movements at all times. But she didn't say much, after all, the master never needed to explain to the maid what he did. I saw it too, you were hugging each other. New Orleans emerged from nowhere. Sugu thought to himself, Colorado took the initiative, but I just passively accepted it. There was no way to refuse. Let alone sexy beauties and so on, it was easy to hear the sincerity of the confession, so I felt like I owed everyone. Colorado returned to the living room behind Sugu. When she saw many people standing here, she still blushed a little. It was just a statement of intention, and of course nothing would happen immediately. Anyway, everyone returned to their homes at the main base the next day. After running back and forth and having a good rest for a day, Colorado took Sugu out. Although the Sparrow is small and well equipped, and the front line headquarters is not large, there is no shortage of various shops. This is a beautifully decorated high-end jewelry store, simple but not simple. When the clerk, a young girl wearing a small suit with black hair tied into a ponytail, took out a ring from the glass counter, Sugu began to become suspicious. Instead of talking about marrying yourself in Colorado, it's better to say that Colorado is marrying yourself. Girls should be reserved, but I didn't expect Colorado to be so proactive and actually drag her to pick out a ring. Sitting at the counter, Colorado was picking up a beautifully crafted ring and putting it on her finger. Then she straightened her arm, spread her fingers, and began to swing her palm slowly. "Admiral, what do you think of this ring?" Sugu glanced at the ring on Colorado's finger. The platinum setting looked sparse and ordinary except for the diamond of unknown carats. He glanced at the young clerk who was obviously not used to the job and was still timid. He felt uncomfortable saying that she didn't look good in person. He whispered, "Genfu, I still have several rings." Affected by Helena, Colorado didn't care. "You should keep those vow rings and marry someone else, I don't need them." With no other choice, Sugu said, "It doesn't feel as beautiful as the oath ring." Colorado took off the ring and returned it to the store clerk, and she caught another one. "This diamond is big enough." Sugu glanced at the price tag of the ring. Prices in the main base were already high. If he had prepared in advance, this little money would be nothing. At this time, he whispered in Colorado's ear, "Colorado, I didn't bring that much money with me at all, things here are extremely expensive." Colorado took the ring that the clerk took out from the little girl. The diamonds bloomed like buds on the petal-shaped ring setting. There was really not much interest in the ring just now, but this one really moved her. She said, "It doesn't matter, I have been working in the combat team for a long time, and the salary is very high. I am rich. I pay for it, you just need to help me wear it, it's ready." Sugu looked at the little girl clerk and found that the other person was also looking at him. He wanted to explain, but after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. He said, "Wouldn't I lose face by spending your money?" "It doesn't matter, anyway, my money is the Admiral's money, and so is the Admiral's money, it's still the Admiral's money." Colorado's words were tiring, and Sugu said, "My money is also your money." A smile broke out on his delicate face, and he suddenly thought of something. Colorado turned to Sugu and said, "Admiral, I remember that a total of 3 rings are needed for marriage. 1 diamond ring is used for proposal, and a pair of rings are needed. The diamond ring is the bigger the better, a platinum or K-gold ring with small or broken diamonds is enough for easy daily wear." It seems so there were so many women's magazines in the guardhouse that Sugu boring read almost all of them. "Why do I remember, Admiral, that you only gave everyone 1 oath ring, and everyone always wears that one. Then there is no matching ring, and there is no exchange of rings." Colorado turned around in front of the counter. She looked Sugu up and down. "Admiral, raise your left hand." Sugu honestly raised his left hand, and his fingers were empty. Colorado nodded thoughtfully. "I've never seen you wearing a ring. Yes, if everyone exchanges rings, one finger won't be able to wear it at all. So many rings, my Lord of the Rings. I don't want to either, and I'm not the Lord of the Rings at all." Sugu thought to himself that back in the game, he had seen many players kill the wrong ones without letting them go. The older ones and the younger ones married dozens of people or even more. That was the Lord of the Rings. King. I am a purely honest child. It's good to be good when you get a bargain. Originally turned to the counter again. Colorado leaned back and raised her head, her short blonde hair hanging down, but she couldn't see Sugu's face. One husband and one wife, one pair of rings is just right, Admiral, you are one husband polygamy, one main ring, and then many separate rings. Without any shame, Sugu said, it seems true. Admiral Chuangziu and the ship girls were the most present, and he recalled the time when he went shopping with Lexington. I didn't have much money at the time and didn't have many ideas. However, it didn't stop everyone from looking around. I did see such a configuration in a jewelry store. We have them here too. He remained silent at first, but now the little girl clerk interrupted. Although Admiral Kawahide and the ship girls are the most popular, many shops here at the main base do not consider ordinary people at all, and only serve the admirals and ship girls, of course. Colorado turned the ring in her hand and she smiled. Are there as many as 100 split rings? No, the little girl clerk replied. Colorado waved his hand and slandered, that's not enough. Sugu innocently said, how could you need so many? Colorado asked the clerk again, I want at least 20 pieces. Sugu, who was speechless, found that the little girl's clerk looked at him in a different way and became a little subtle. 5 at most. Funny, Colorado knocked on the counter and said, please take out this pair of rings. The little girl's clerk took out the ring again, and then introduced the designer's considerations in a routine manner. Colorado put one on and gave one to Sugu, looking back and forth, Admiral, it feels quite suitable. Sugu turned the ring on his ring finger and said, not bad. Colorado put her elbows on the counter and supported the side of her face. She asked, Admiral, do you think it's better to have a diamond or a plain ring? Casual. Perfunctory. Colorado turned the back of his hand back and forth, one is not enough, I want 2 rings. One diamond ring, the more gorgeous the better, my private collection. 2 rings, one for me and some for you. I hope you can wear it every day. As much as possible. You know the reason. Sugu really didn't dare to give a definite answer. Lexington would never allow him to wear Colorado's ring. No matter how many weddings there are, the status of a lady cannot be shaken. Sure enough, the wife is strict. Doesn't it look like a mistress? No, it should be called a mistress. Colorado smiled happily. She had no intention of competing with Lexington in the ring. At least put it on before returning to the town hall. After choosing and choosing, I finally bought a ring in a jewelry store. After leaving the store, the sun was dazzling. Colorado put on sunglasses and became a royal lady. She said to herself, I have the ring, but I also need a wedding dress. If there is no mission, friends, California, Tuscaloosa, Xiangfeng, then the instructor will also be called, and my sister may not be able to catch up. There's a little church at the end of the street that's barely usable. Colorado, don't worry. I have the impression that Colorado should be more stable, with wedding rings, wedding dresses, and wedding dresses, so proactive, it feels like the pace is too fast. Sugu suddenly thought that when he gave Helena and Akagi the rings, there seemed to be no wedding at all, and he suddenly felt guilty again. Colorado frowned, and she explained, Sister, Washington and the others are still on the front line, and I ran back alone. It turned out that we had agreed, so I have to rush back in a few days, so I have to hurry up. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 694. The blue-haired girl West Virginia was happy and in a good mood. It was rare to see her sister who usually bullied her being bullied. She was squatting on the ground and stretched out her index finger to poke her second sister Marilyn's face. Sister, even if you have grown up. But the gap in training is too big. How can you be Washington's opponent? There is no hope. You are a violent girl and a rebellious girl. It's a pity that Washington is the gang leader. Who is your sister? The young and beautiful girl was lying on the ground in a big shape. Maryland kept breathing heavily. The boss was dissatisfied. What? Let's fight if we fight, and fight if we fight. What's the point? The one with the axe. West Virginia put her head aside and became extremely happy. There are some who don't need an axe, some who don't use hands, some who don't use feet, and some who stand and let me hit you. See if I can't kill you. Pay attention, West Virginia. I can't beat peanut stew, can I still beat you? Short red hair was scattered on the ground. Marilyn stared at the ceiling of the training room. The ceiling fan was spinning. Sister is not here, no one can help you. Don't think that because she is my sister, you can act unscrupulously. I don't mind destroying relatives for justice. West Virginia was not afraid. After all, Marilyn seemed to have no strength at all. She shook her head and said, I'm going crazy and I'm even afraid of myself. You, indeed, despite the threats, Maryland really didn't want to move and wanted to stay on the ground for a while. Maryland girls are not as good as South Dakota. She has a pair of diamond bracelets on her hands and can fight Washington back and forth. Maryland has no temper. Although South Dakota is a fat little boy, he is short, clueless, controlling, and has no moral integrity. It must be said that he has a very strong fighting ability, and many people are no match for him at all. Washington likes to bully people, but he never dared to agree to the South Dakota exercise requirements. A well-matched opponent, even Washington might be weak. After all, it's a glass cannon. In contrast, apart from its IQ flaw, South Dakota has no weaknesses at all, regardless of firepower, armor, or air defense. No one loses, Maryland said, fighting with South Dakota, winning is not something to be proud of, losing is embarrassing. She can afford to lose, we can't afford to lose. The same goes for quarreling, it's not who quarrels the best wins, whoever is thick-skinned. Win. If it doesn't work, it won't work. Just make irresponsible remarks and ignore others. Maryland sighed, and then came up with another idea, otherwise, I'll discuss it with Helena. She's just a light cruiser. West Virginia said so. Of course, the battleships and light cruisers didn't have to fight at all. What kind of light cruiser is that kind of body? She is the one. Maryland stretched out his hands and said, help me up. After waiting for a few seconds, there was no movement, and Maryland only saw West Virginia facing the door. Hearing footsteps, she asked, who is coming? West Virginia whispered, get up, eldest sister is back. I've been here for so long. Before I left, I said I was going to see the Admiral and he would come back. Maryland mumbled, and then she saw Colorado standing next to her, looking down at her. Her voice immediately became weak, I just said it, sister, whatever happens is fine. Yet there was no scolding. Maryland was surprised for a while. His eldest sister, Colorado, didn't lecture him, but just smiled. Standing on the rocks by the sea, Washington was looking into the distance, his eyes falling on the seagulls swooping down from the sky. Fighting Maryland again. Washington turned around and saw Helena walking up to him, her long hair tied up, and wearing a one-shoulder floral dress. Maryland. Annoying. Helena laughed when she saw Washington rubbing his forehead. Maryland is a fighting maniac. Even though he is knocked down and defeated every time, he still never gives up. Repeated defeats and repeated battles and repeated defeats. Of course you can refuse, and then. Washington, why does South Dakota have a ring and you don't? Washington, you can't beat South Dakota. Maryland worked tirelessly and refused to change despite repeated admonishments. Washington was really forced to take action. With her hands behind her back, Helena said, Maryland and West Virginia have really become a lot stronger. You can give them a hand. Bragging. Washington is actually worried about when they surpassed him. Even though she is a light cruiser, Helena still has good eyesight. It's not a big deal. They want to surpass me, but they have to wait another 500 years. Recalling the battles these days, Washington was honestly frightened. Maryland grew up quickly, and the lessons were easy at first. Later, I felt more and more powerless, and I had to face it head on and treat it carefully to ensure victory. At least their ship parameters now surpass yours after a good test, except for speed. Maryland and West Virginia have excellent data. Of course, Maryland's measurements are not on the table. Missouri's parameters are even higher, and they are still defeated. Helena was non-committal. She stretched her waist. Have you asked? How did they grow up? Washington thought that going out with the admiral was naturally one of the goals. It's a pity that after so many days, there is no development. It's not as good as the prestige of being by your side every step of the way, and it's not as good as Missouri's relatability. If people care about it, they can only bully South Dakota. Apart from that, if possible, of course I want to grow up well. I asked Maryland, and the girl said that her long hair grew after she cut it off. I also suggested that I cut my long hair short, but I might as well forget it. Short hair feels weird. Of course, if you can really grow, it doesn't matter if you have long hair and cut it short, but the opinion is too unreliable. However, I learned from other people's mouths that Maryland's growth actually had early signs, and before it grew, it would attack more and more crazily. Then West Virginia's growth was even more inexplicable. She grew up just because she wanted to be as strong as her sister. Maybe there are many reasons, but everyone doesn't know it. It seems that the growth path cannot be copied. The growth of Akagi is said to have defeated the deep-sea York City, Enterprise, and Hornet. If Washington defeated the deep-sea battlecruiser Kirishima, Helena understands history, and she is one of the few reliable people in the garrison. Why should I care about my defeated opponent? I am not South Dakota. Helena agreed. Yes, if we defeat the abyssal Kirishima, maybe South Dakota will grow. Washington said, push South Dakota to the ground and teach her a lesson. Maybe she will grow up. You may not be able to beat South Dakota. South Dakota has taught her a lesson countless times, but it's useless. Washington smiled. The battleship USS Washington received a total of 13 battle stars during World War II and was an auspicious warship. Lexington has an enemy, Ziwikaku. South Dakota had an enemy in Kirishima, and Hood had an enemy in Bismarck. The Washington, her life was an invincible life, with no enemies and no inner demons. Helena whispered, there is no escape from the fate of being dismantled after the war, so it is better to simply sink in the sea. You won't die unless you seek death. Washington's voice was calm. Helena is actually not afraid of threats, but that doesn't mean she likes to seek death. Not to mention Maryland, West Virginia has really changed a lot when it grows up. How can it change so much and become so sexy and beautiful? Washington, if you grow up, you will become what's it like? Plop. Helena kicked a stone into the sea. Maybe she will become younger. No need. Washington shook his head. Becoming beautiful. Washington asked, aren't I beautiful now? Have you become taller? I'm no South Dakota dwarf, not as good as a heavy cruiser. Bigger breasts. After a long silence, Washington said, that's enough. Not enough. Washington glanced at Helena's chest coldly, and she said, it's too big. The admiral likes it? Washington remained silent until the sea breeze became stronger and stronger. She said, it's perfect enough. I don't need any changes. If possible, make the ship more powerful. You are really confident in yourself. Now, will your personality change drastically as you grow up? Growing up leads to a big change in personality. It is better to say that a big change in personality leads to growth. Helena pinched her chin. Anyway, after growing up, I became more confident. Washington glanced at Helena and growled, "Shut up. When you grow up, you might become a barrister." Washington was confident, "I am already a barrister. Who do you think is responsible for disputes, lawsuits, contracts, and contracts? Become a great president. It's ridiculous. Is your head full of water, or are you saying you have big breasts and no brains?" Switching to South Dakota, Washington's hand has already slapped it, and he even dubbed it, "Bang bang bang." Taking a deep breath, Washington explained, "The name of the battleship Washington comes not from President Washington, but from the state of Washington. The name of Washington state is to commemorate the first President Washington, no problem. Ship Girl was originally born from the memory and history of steel. Everyone expects President Washington, so you are the president. So South Dakota country girl, North Carolina Indian war god." Washington was speechless. Helena said with great interest, "Speaking of you and the North Carolina sister ship, it doesn't look like you are sisters at all. Many sisters are not alike, like Bismarck and Tirpitz. Lexington is a lot like Saratoga, Prestige, and Counterattack. Have no idea." Helena saw someone patrolling the sea in the distance, and she suddenly asked, "How many attacks have we made in the past few days?" Washington knew, 4 times. "How many deep-sea ship girls have been eliminated?" 21. After destroying so many deep-sea ship girls, not a single ship was recovered, not even a destroyer. It's not that easy. Generally, the garrison may not be able to get a ship girl in a year. Helena actually knows a lot about her work at the ship girl headquarters. She said, "Just bring Lord Sook Bader here. She's just a supply ship. She only needs 1 shot. You shouldn't. How can you sink a supply ship? Just take off your underwear." Washington was not used to joking, so Helena asked curiously, "In the past 2 years, many people have joined our garrison. Only land defeated the deep-sea ship girl and salvaged it?" Helena laughed, "Defeating the deep-sea ship girl and salvaging the ship is purely a test of luck, not like salvaging the stray ship girl. It's okay if you don't encounter it, but if you do, as long as the admiral is keeping an eye on it, there will always be a way. Duke of York, King George of England 5th, you can ask the Prince of Wales. The Roma can ask Veneto to take action, but Veneto probably doesn't want to see his sister. If it's Converse, Dyson, or Claxton, Fletcher can definitely complete the mission smoothly. Sorry, Long, the 1st Aviation Battle and the 5th Aviation Battle have something to do with it. It seems that there is no one on the battle cruiser King Kong class, this kind of thing cannot be done by other garrison buildings." After standing on the beach for a while, the two returned to the base. "Hello, eldest sister. Thank you for your hard work, eldest sister. Sister Washington, shall we attack tomorrow?" Saying hello all the way, in just a short period of time, Washington quickly gained recognition with his outstanding abilities and unparalleled combat effectiveness. Helena joked, "Washington is so powerful. It seems that Colorado's prestige is not as good as yours. If she comes back, as long as you are unwilling to let go, she can't take away the position of responsible person." Washington sneered, "Without power and many worries, the person in charge can do whatever he wants." They returned to the war room and suddenly discovered that Colorado had returned. Then the 2 younger sisters stood beside them, holding their older sister's hands. There was no accident. After all, Colorado had been away for so many days and it was time to come back. Helena said, "Colorado, you finally know you are back. Because there is something delayed." Helena subconsciously asked, "Oh, what's the matter?" Washington saw West Virginia holding Colorado's hand, and she said, "You really have a deep love for each other as sisters, we just haven't seen each other for a few days." Maryland said, "Helena, let me see your ring." "You've already seen it. If there's anything interesting to see, if you want it, Ask the admiral for it. I don't want it, I just want to see the difference between your ring and my sister's ring. Helena was stunned for a while, and Colorado took her hand out of West Virginia's hand. There is nothing to compare. The corner of Helena's mouth twitched, and Helena smiled. She knew that her admiral had always liked Colorado, but she didn't expect it so quickly. Congratulations. Colorado stretched out her hand, and she looked at the ring on her hand. The admiral insists on giving it to me, I don't know how to refuse. It's easy to refuse. A slap in the face is enough for a gangster or pervert. It took a lot of time to choose the ring and wedding dress. I originally wanted to hold a wedding, so everything was simplified. It doesn't matter. We can do it when we return to the garrison. Richelieu is the archbishop, so she can be the priest. Helena looked around. Otherwise, if the president is a highly respected president, Washington can be the witness. At this point, Helena and Colorado looked at Washington, and they were silent together. I saw Washington standing by the window, taking a box of women's cigarettes and opening them. He lit the cigarette tremblingly, held the butt between his index and middle fingers and just put it into his mouth. The flowers are floating and the water is flowing, a kind of lovesickness, and two places of leisurely sorrow. There is no way to eliminate this feeling, so I just frown, but it is in my heart. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 695. Until Washington left the war room, Helena still remembered that lonely figure. Colorado, it's all your fault. Why didn't I realize you were so showy before? South Dakota is clearly in charge, and Washington doesn't seem to have any extra words to express. However, as sisters of the town guard mansion, after living together for so long, everyone still knows her feelings very well. In the past, Washington was dashing and handsome, and he always had a temperament in which he had everything under control. Colorado remembered the other person's confused expression while smoking just now, and he couldn't help but feel guilty in his heart. He shouldn't have. Just hearing Helena's accusation, she frowned in dissatisfaction. Who dances the most and shows off the most? Anyone can criticize me, Helena, you can't do it, you are not qualified. Why did I jump? Colorado thought for a while, and she replied, I always wear the ring, always showing it intentionally or unintentionally, for fear that others will not know. I keep saying what happened to me and the admiral, and then what happened? What? You are too sensitive. Helena raised her eyebrows. Persecution delusion. Colorado crossed his legs, clasping his hands on his lap. Am I delusional, or are you just too showy? Otherwise, we'll let Maryland and West Virginia judge. They are your sisters. Are you threatening me? Helena saw Colorado's helpless expression and thought that she would never win in a fight, but she was not ready to give in. She turned to look out the window, and light dust was dancing in the sunlight that poured into the war room. Sure enough, it's all South Dakota's fault. She usually likes to show off rings. When she sees someone, she says she is the wedding ship and the admiral is the husband. It would benefit no one to lose both sides. Colorado nodded. Yes, everything is South Dakota's fault. West Virginia looked left and right. No matter whose fault it is, what about Washington? Like a zombie, Washington returned to his room. As soon as the dormitory door closed, she leaned against it. In fact, she didn't like smoking. She held the butt of the cigarette between her index and middle fingers and let the tobacco burn slowly. Confuse. Why do I feel heartache and palpitations when I see the ring on Colorado's hand? It's just a ring, what's the point? It's ridiculous that he is still so complacent. Put your body, mind, and everything in the hands of a man, especially when that man has many women. He kept saying that he didn't remember many things in the past, but it had only been a few days since he met Colorado. It's a ring, it's a wedding dress, it's amazing how big the breasts are. With his eyes closed and his head leaning against the door, Washington put his hand on his forehead, wondering what it would be like to be proposed to. It probably happened somewhere, under the big banyan tree in front of the base, or on the beach. Colorado, who had short blonde hair, was wearing a knee-length white skirt. The admiral knelt down on one knee next to him, holding a small red box in his hand, with a diamond ring quietly placed inside. Then he will say something, "I like you, marry me." Maybe it will be more romantic. It's nothing. I was nothing. I joined the garrison later than South Dakota. It has never been on any sortie, even though it served as a flagship and secretary ship for a period of time. I can't remember what happened together. We were separated, and finally we met again, but we still remember every bit of our life together clearly. But it can't compare to the prestige and tacit understanding, it can't compare to Lexington's natural, it can't compare to many people, and finally it can't even compare to the newcomer Missouri. The two of them don't seem to get tired of talking all day long. Now Colorado has taken the lead. There was no sadness on his face, and of course there were no tears left. Washington just pursed his lips. Maryland wanted to watch the fun, but it wasn't allowed, and the same was true for West Virginia. When Colorado and Helena found the dormitory, they did not see the room in a mess after venting, and they also did not hear crying. I saw Washington sitting by the bed, with a bag of peanuts and a can of beer beside her. "Why are you here?" Thinking that everyone had misunderstood, there was no sadness, no loneliness, Washington didn't care at all. Colorado said, "It's nothing, I just came to see you." "I have nothing to see, but congratulations to you, Colorado. You have always liked the Admiral before, but now your merits are finally fulfilled." Colorado carefully sat down on the edge of the bed and hesitated for a while. She joked, "The Admiral gave me the ring, so you can't run away." Washington sneered, but she didn't say anything. "I don't care about the ring at all." She just smiled and said, "No one has given me any red envelopes, and neither have you." Helena interrupted, "Washington, you have the nerve to say, Akagya, you don't have to give it, you forgot my red envelope." "Who asked me to return to the town hall?" "You have turned into a wedding ship. Just make up for it." Colorado pretended to complain, "There is no bride price, no dowry, we are just little wives." The fists placed on his thighs were clenched, careful not to be noticed. Washington said amusedly, "Well, it's so aggrieved, so I won't leave you with a red envelope. I've been away for several days." "How is Washington managing as the person in charge?" "Fortunately, it's your sister Maryland who provokes me all day long. She grew up and became violent. People called her Aggressive Mary. You are back. The person in charge should continue to leave it to you." Colorado held out a peanut and chewed it. She said, "It's only a few days. I heard from Maryland and West Virginia that everyone now calls you Sister Washington." Helena leaned against the closet. "What's your level in Colorado, and what's your level in Washington?" "Except for my speed, I'm pretty good. After all, I'm Big 7. You should give me some face." "Yes, Colorado is great." The sun was clearly shining brightly, but Colorado only felt a bit cold. Exit Washington's room. "It's so normal, so abnormal, it looks like Washington is really hurt." "Colorado, why did you change the topic just now? Are you not comforting me?" "Comfort?" I suddenly thought, are we here to comfort you, or to add salt to the wound? It's none of my business anyway. Washington only did this after seeing your ring. You have to deal with it. Helena, don't think about putting aside the relationship. At worst, I will just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. What to do? I don't know. Just take it one step at a time. Maybe Washington will be fine in a few days. This came a few days later in the afternoon when Colorado saw Washington and South Dakota together. As she got closer, she could only hear South Dakota saying, Washington, are you going to bully me again? It's just plain glasses. You're not myopic and pretending to be a literary girl. Your glasses are really ugly and I feel uncomfortable looking at them. I want you to take care of, you look so fierce. What happened? Nothing. Don't come close to me. Okay, I'll take off my glasses. Now you can be happy. You look so stupid without your glasses. Colorado remembered the joke about the little white rabbit and the big bad wolf. I told you not to wear a hat. As expected, there is no excuse for wanting to incriminate others. Washington, who seemed to be emotionally frustrated, finally couldn't help but vent his anger. If you bully me again, I will get angry. I am very powerful. Colorado saw that Washington's hand behind his back was holding an axe handle, like a big bad wolf. At the end of the matter, Colorado saw South Dakotan kneeling on the ground with a look of grievance on his face, his silver curly hair spread on the ground. As for Washington, who was walking through the corridor outside the training room, a satisfied expression finally appeared on his face. After all, we are on the front line, and fighting is actually the main theme. Facing a weak enemy, Maryland likes to play this way, and Colorado knows it. Yes, it is refreshing to shell the whole door, but imagine that a battleship of tens of thousands of tons is running over a destroyer of thousands of tons. There is nothing more exciting than this, and the blood will boil. Of course, real battleships are basically unable to do this kind of thing. It is one thing if the battleship cannot catch up with the destroyer. Even if it catches up and sinks the destroyer, the underwater part of the bow of the ship may be seriously damaged. For example, the USS Wisconsin, which collided with a destroyer and caused serious damage to the bow, was still an Iowa-class ship. Besides, once the battleship needs to return to the slipway for repairs, it is unknown how much manpower, material resources, and time will be spent. Ship girls are very different from battleships and will not be easily injured. Even if he is injured, he only needs to return to the drainage room and lose a few resources, and he will be alive and kicking in half a day. As long as it doesn't sink directly, it can be easily recovered from any serious damage. Washington also likes to take action, but Colorado knows it. The axe hit the huge fish-shaped hull of the deep-sea destroyer, and cracks suddenly appeared on the dark steel. That's not the end of it. I saw Washington's arm reaching out, grabbing the girl in the fish-shaped ship suit, violently pulling her out, and then pressing her down on the sea. The next scene is hard to describe. Colorado, what do you think of me like that? Would it be too violent? It's just the enemy. To be honest, it's really cool. Let's continue tomorrow. The axe was stuck on his waist. In the next few days, Washington led a team to take the initiative to eliminate the nearby deep-sea ship girls. This is not the end. The deep-sea ship girls further out in the sea are not letting go, and they are quite ready to kill the deep-sea ship girls. Fortunately, he still had sense and did not take action against the deep-sea flagship. Originally, Colorado was not prepared to say anything more. For example, it was all due to his own vanity. The admiral did not take the initiative to give him the ring, but he confessed his love to the admiral. After all, as a girl, you still have to save face, so how can you be embarrassed to tell the truth? Anyway, it's not a monogamous relationship. There's no such thing as who can rob each other. It's up to everyone to do their own thing. Finally, she decided to confess everything to Washington. As a girl, she couldn't be reserved. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 696. Her long white hair was not tied up with a strip of cloth, but was divided into two bunches and placed in front of her body. With soft pillows placed behind his back, Washington was sitting on the bed with his legs bent and leaning against the headboard. In her hand she held a women's magazine that originally belonged to West Virginia. It was boring, so she borrowed it. In fact, she didn't have much interest in magazines, finding the stories too childish. After all, she is more rational than ordinary girls who are emotional, and has strong logical thinking ability that many people do not have. If possible, she would rather read obscure professional books. Dong dong dong. When there was a gentle knock on the door, Washington looked toward the door. Unexpectedly, South Dakota was not like looking for trouble. The door was not closed, but Colorado was standing by the door, with his right hand clenched into a fist still on the door. She looked like she had just finished taking a shower. Her short blonde hair was slightly damp and draped over her shoulders. The ends of her hair were not raised as usual. Wearing a vest, a pair of jeans, and slippers. Washington asked casually, "Colorado, what's going on?" Colorado walked into the room. She sat down by the bed, tilted her head and asked, "Can't I see you if I have nothing to do?" Washington withdrew his gaze from Colorado, and she responded casually. Not ready to get straight to the point, Colorado held her chin and looked at Washington. She said, "It doesn't look strong, but Washington is really powerful." In the afternoon, he sunk the deep-sea battle cruiser with one shot. It must have been a deep-sea battle cruiser. Battleship Veneto is still a little girl. Height and strength are meaningless. Washington turned a page of the magazine, "And he's not as good as you, Tomahawk." Manipulating the turret to aim at two enemies separately, and hit accurately, and even cause greater damage, is not something ordinary people can do. It has always been the pride of Colorado. It's just a pity. I want Maryland to study hard, but the other party is not interested and would rather be aggressive than marry. Then, they are both sisters. The younger sister, West Virginia, has no talent at all in this area, and she is discouraged. Colorado businessmen boasted, but Washington is really good at being the flagship. What everyone should do, and the tasks are arranged well. It can almost be said that the combat effectiveness of the entire team has been improved. Read more books. Strong individual ability does not mean strong command ability. Despite his early training, Washington never gave up on learning. Colorado said, "It's not just about reading more books. You said South Dakota, if you ask her to read, she can't understand it at all. She's too stupid." It can be said that no matter how hard she tries, she can't be a flagship. Read books and learn. There are only a few people in the garrison who can do it, but you are the only one. When South Dakota was mentioned, Washington smiled and nodded in approval. South Dakota is too stupid. The little fat South Dakota can only watch storytelling sessions and close friends. For her, classics or professional books have a kind of hypnotic power. Colorado is funny, since being the flagship is so great. Washington, the organization has decided that you are our flagship. You are our hood, the glory of the United States. Dignified, intellectually elegant, and the glory of the Royal Navy, this is the battle cruiser HMS Hood. However, scaring little Lolita is not enough, but scaring outsiders is almost the same. In the eyes of many people in the town hall, Hood is purely a funny character, especially because he is stuffed with cats, is short-sighted, and starts screaming and dying after just a scratch. "I'm not Hood," Washington said, and she continued to wave her hands. "I can't be a flagship." "If you can't be a flagship, then you can be a wife ship." Seeing Washington glaring at her, Colorado shut up. She bent over and pressed her legs. "Someone has to stand up." "Lexington can't do it." I can only be a wife, but I can't be a flagship." "Lexington is an aircraft carrier and cannot be used as a flagship. By the way, your sister West Virginia can be used as a flagship." "I think her idea is completely feasible," Colorado said, "but it can only be used on slow-speed ships. California, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Nevada, plus you three sisters, can form a formation." As soon as you said that, I wanted to beat Akaga to death. "You're such a bastard. It's a pity that no matter how powerful we are, we can't compare to you." Washington, North Carolina, South Dakota, and Missouri. "I heard she is very powerful." by the way, and Guam and Alaska. Colorado suddenly burst into laughter. Guam and Alaska, why don't they always have the feeling that their grandma doesn't love their uncle and they don't love them? Washington is actually very down-to-earth, large anti-aircraft cruiser. Looking left and right, Colorado felt that it was almost done, and began to cycle. I went back, and the Admiral has always been surrounded by reputation. Washington said, the mission of reputation is to take care of the Admiral. In such a hot day, you insist on wearing a maid uniform. Being so cruel to yourself, your reputation is really not easy. Washington was non-committal. Colorado raised his head. Seriously, the Admiral has changed so much. He was such an unscrupulous person before, but now he feels completely different. Washington thought thoughtfully, when Depo appears in front of him, he wants to strip you naked. He has done so many excessive things to everyone in the past. I really don't know how everyone can endure it. Although he has a terrible personality, he still cares about us. Rather than caring, it feels like it's just possessiveness. All men are like this. If they don't want to possess you, then you need to worry. I say he has changed, but in fact he is still the same. His nature has not changed at all. I think he always likes to bully Quincy and like to peek at people. Washington's voice was cold. Your sexy body. Hey, Washington, what are you talking about? What is pornography? Of course Colorado was not angry. On the contrary, she was a little proud. She smiled. Speaking of which, I ran back from the front line and went to a friend's house to take a shower and change. I just put my clothes back, and I see that the Admiral is completely amazed. Taking off his slippers, Colorado swung his feet. We first went to the lighthouse to see, went to sushi, and then went to the school at the base. The Admiral also said that he has a hand with little Lolita, which is totally unacceptable. I don't think he will ever be able to get it. Let's start laming NU 1206. I know an auntie Admiral, and I took everyone to her garrison the next day. Hesitant, Colorado was really worried about the state of Washington. She said, we stayed at Admiral Auntie's garrison in the evening. After dinner, the Admiral and I talked on the viewing platform outside the garrison. We talked about the past of the garrison. The thing is, then, I confessed my love to the Admiral. He didn't take the initiative to give me the ring. I confessed my love to him first. Washington remained silent. We should have come back a long time ago. We went to choose the ring. I was really unhappy. I paid for the diamond ring. Then the money for the ring was not much, but he still had to ask for prestige. As an admiral, he didn't bring it money. I just don't know what to say. Colorado looked at Washington, only to see that Washington had no expression and just put away the book. She organized her words and continued, to be honest, the admiral is quite timid. If you don't take the initiative, he will never know how to take the initiative. I know he is right. I don't have any feelings, he just agreed because I mentioned it. Washington spoke, haha, Colorado, actually I know that the ring was definitely not given to you by the admiral. How come you know it again? Admiral, he is so bold. There are only 10 wedding ships. Ziwahi, Raider, Richelieu, forget it, I'll just count them. And he never refuses, or he is not good at refusing, Washington said as barrister. Of course you have thought about it afterwards, you are not so easily deceived. No matter what happens, as long as there is a slight flaw, it will never escape her eyes. Lowering his head, raising his head, brushing his bangs, and touching his nose, Cora asked him, then you are going to do this? What should I do? Otherwise, Washington can express his love to the admiral, and he won't refuse anyway. Nevada and Princeton were playing cards, and she wasn't actually doing it to win money. Colorado agrees, getting the ring isn't important, it's being in love. Nevada played cards with Princeton. She lost all night, and she chased Princeton all over the town. There's really no gambling in Nevada. Washington deadpanned, Princeton cheated. Feeling uneasy and suddenly afraid, Colorado opened her mouth and smiled dryly. Maryland brought back a lot of cans. Do you want it from Washington? What can? Yellow peach, black bean fish, beef, luncheon meat. No need. Washington could tell that Colorado wanted to leave, so she handed the magazine in her hand out. Please help me return this book to West Virginia. Colorado returned to her dormitory worriedly. She saw Maryland sitting cross-legged on the bed and eating a can with chopsticks, while West Virginia stood by the closet. Colorado asked, "There should be many people in Maryland, West Virginia, and the garrison who like the Admiral." "Well, there are many. Why don't you think the Admiral just gives out rings to everyone who likes him?" Maryland and West Virginia opened their mouths in turn. What's the difference between everyone having a ring and everyone not having a ring? West Virginia thought hard. Everyone doesn't want a ring, they just want a little more care. Xiaozai doesn't care if he has a ring or not. Please, Xiaozai is just a little lowly. Yuxian doesn't care if he has a ring or not. There is no way, but it's a pity that there is only one admiral. It's so difficult. Just being by the admiral's side is enough, no matter if there is a ring or not. Colorado asked, "Why is Washington reacting so strongly? The admiral actually took the initiative to give me the ring. The differential treatment is too great. I am unwilling to accept the fact." Colorado wanted to tell the truth, but finally held back. She said, "How about asking the admiral for the ring? Just a ring, no care. What's the point of a ring like that?" Colorado shook her index finger and explained, "As long as you get the ring, no matter how you get it, the admiral will subconsciously care more about it. After all, it's a wedding ship. Now that you've got the ring, it's more natural to do what you do. It should be easier to cultivate feelings." West Virginia suddenly realized, "It seems so." "Sister, tell us the truth," Maryland thought quickly. She put down the can in her hand, pointed with her chopsticks, and stared at. "Is the black bean fish delicious?" Colorado asked him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 697. This has been a lot of divas. After getting the intelligence at noon, everyone started to attack, sailing, searching for enemies, and fighting. After all, in the depths of the sea, the enemy is often more difficult to deal with. It was not until the early morning of the next day that we won the victory and returned to the base. As soon as we touched the bed, we immediately fell on it and entered dreamland. She didn't know how long it had been, but when Helena got up in a daze, she saw the bright sunshine pouring into the dormitory from the window. The conditions on the front line are really not good. The dormitories are not decorated at all, and the furniture is barely adequate, which basically meets the accommodation conditions. There is no dressing table here, just a square mirror with a broken corner and several large cracks. The square mirror was placed at the head of the bed, and Helena squatted beside the bed, fiddling with her bangs. As a girl, she still cared about image. In fact, from all angles, she really couldn't be called a girl. Her hair was messy, so Helena thought for a moment and took off the hairpin that held her bun in place, and her black hair suddenly hung down to her waist. He held his long hair with both hands and then flexibly tied it up. Before she picked up the hairpin and fixed it, she suddenly let go of her hands because she suddenly remembered that she had not taken a good bath. The entrance room was also a bathroom. Helena went in for half an hour. When she came out again, smelling the fresh air, she felt alive. Walking through the corridor, she saw no one along the way, thinking that everyone was either in the dormitory or in the war room. Finally, Helena went to the war room, which was relatively close. Pushing the door open and entering without saying hello, she only saw a lot of people sitting inside, and she didn't recognize them all. When she found that everyone was staring at her, she suddenly felt that something was wrong with the atmosphere and immediately left in embarrassment. I don't know where this person came from. Thinking like this, Helena stood at the door and patted her chest. Helena. She was about to go to the dormitory to chat with Maryland or West Virginia. Without taking 2 steps, Helena heard a familiar voice. She turned around and saw an unexpected person, Missouri. She has long brown hair draped over her shoulders. She is tall and slim, and looks sexy and charming. Thinking of a time before, Xiao Zai didn't know where he learned the word Feng Chen. I just said one thing, the most adorable little loli in the world makes people look dumb. Why is Missouri here? Missouri exhaled, his shoulders drooped, and his whole figure seemed to be shorter. It was so difficult to run. It took half a day to get here from the base. They suppressed the deep-sea ship girl together and then separated. Helena knew where Missouri had gone. She asked curiously, "Why did you come here?" Missouri raised her eyebrows, and she said, "I tell you, you are really too happy to miss you." She hated playing riddles, so Helena said angrily, "Speak carefully. What's going on?" "It's almost done." "It's been agreed. How long do you want to stay here?" "I don't want to stay here anyway." Without the round face of Xiaozai, without the delicious food of Yuxian, I can't even go out and patrol all day long to bully Hindenburg Null. Helena suddenly realized that she was silently calculating in her heart how long it had been since everyone came to the front line. I originally planned to stay on the front line for half a month to a month, but it has been quite a while now. I don't know how many deep-sea ship girls were suppressed before and after, but no one was able to fish them out. This is the only regrettable thing. Not to mention battleships, destroyers are almost the same. Potato Obanon and Love Brain Claxton are both good, but of course Bratty William is not needed. Looking into the war room from the window, Helena asked subconsciously, "I understand, you came here to replace us." Just for a moment, a pitiful expression appeared on Missouri's face, and her voice became timid. Her talent as an actress was fully demonstrated. "Well, Helena, aren't we a family?" "Who is with your family?" Helena knew Missouri's tricks and her expression was determined. Ruthless Missouri laughed, "They are coming to replace the Colorado sisters and Hindenburg, and I are coming to pick you up." Having already understood what happened, Helena asked, "I didn't see Hindenburg." She was wandering around outside, staring at others building walls with a fierce look on her face. Helena's eyes wandered around the war room, and she asked curiously, "Who are they?" "They have been away from the front line for a long time, but they are all familiar friends." Missouri introduced, "The one in military uniform is the Bismarck. He used to be an instructor and was not very good at teaching people. Now he has joined the combat team. And the one with pink hair is the Alaska. The one next to her is Guowei. She used to have long hair, but she cut it short after not seeing her for a few years. It feels so strange. I almost didn't recognize her when I first saw her." Helena showed surprise. "Bismarck, Alaska, Panway, there are not many people in the whole world. I actually saw the Richelieu and Scharnhorst. This place is really amazing. Otherwise, why do you think our frontline general base should establish a base in the depths of the sea? There are everyone here. No, our garrison has no shortage of these people. Speaking of this being the front line, there are only 2 front lines in the whole world. The garrison can use hundreds as units. Our garrison is a monster garrison." The relationship between the two was actually mainly due to the closeness of life on the cruise ship. Helena suddenly joked, "Missouri, you are a young man, right? Let's take a look at our frontline general base and a look at our garrison. This is my natal home, and of course it's us. Missouri has a good impression of the front line. After all, he joined the combat team and lived here for many years and has countless precious memories. Helena joked, "This is your natal family, what is the townhouse, your husband's family?" Missouri's expression became aggrieved again, like a coy little daughter-in-law. "I came to your garrison with no name and no status." Click, stop. Helena quickly interrupted Missouri's performance and reached out to rub her forehead. She knew very well that this girl was never finished from the beginning. As a ship girl, Helena is still very concerned about combat effectiveness. She asked, "How is their training level?" Missouri pried, "They are definitely a little worse than me, haha, they have been on the front line for many years, they are already old girls." That's awesome. Helena understood what Missouri meant, just barely. Even though everyone in the garrison is very strong, she still knows the level of the average ship girl in the world. After all, I had worked at the ship girl headquarters for a long time, and had been in the combat team and command team. It's just a pity that he is a carrot and a trap. He has been around for a long time and has not become a leader. Missouri stretched her body, tilted her head and asked, "Helena, the Colorado inside is from our garrison, right? We came here for them, don't you know?" She looks amazing. It's really remarkable. Paper couldn't contain the fire, but everyone still knew what Colorado had done. There won't be any curses or taunts, and it's okay to jump in line, but there will definitely be jokes. However, Colorado is really not an easy person to deal with. He crossed his legs and glanced around. He said with heart but no courage and immediately left people speechless. In fact, South Dakota still has something to say, but what she did has never been the same. It has no reference significance. People go to higher places, and water flows to lower places. People cannot imitate fools. In fact, Missouri means that the amazing waste makes people look dirty. Helena means that her courage to move forward is unrivaled. The two stood side by side in the corridor outside the war room, with the sun falling in front of them. Missouri said, "I started to see Washington. I told her that we would leave in a few days. I saw her expression was a little strange. In fact, there was nothing wrong with Washington's face, it was just that Missouri had a sixth sense." Helena bared her teeth and said, "Did you look at Colorado's left hand?" "I saw Colorado wearing a ring on the ring finger of his left hand, that's why I doubt it. Mainly because I remember that someone is not married to Colorado. He has 10 weddings in total, and now he is only missing one lion. I heard he is as gorgeous as a queen. I will really get married." Missouri is very powerful, even if she is not so careful, she can still find many details. Having lived in the governor's mansion for so long, she also knew a lot about many things in the past. She even went to the West specifically to learn about intelligence. "The ring I just got from Colorado is already on the wedding day." So fast, Missouri became curious. He is obviously such a coward. Is Colorado special? "I don't think it's very special. It's not an initial ship or anything, it seems a little special. Anyway, that's not the reason." Missouri stretched out her finger, as if there was only one truth, "Then there is only one reason left, big breasts." "I agree." Helena's voice was faint, but she repeated what happened. No rumors, Colorado met, confessed, all in one go, a hero guarding the mansion. Thinking of something, Missouri asked curiously, "Colorado has done this kind of thing and it has been successful. There is a precedent, Richelieu, Zouahi, raiders, counterattack, forget it, I won't count, everyone can learn from it." "What to do?" Helena was non-committal. "Even if you know, not everyone is brave." Missouri began to look Helena up and down again, and a smile suddenly broke out on her face. "I just thought of it, so you are all cuckolded by Colorado, cuckolded." Helena glared at Missouri, raised her hand to strike, and finally patted Missouri lightly on the shoulder. "It was just a joke, and of course she wouldn't be angry. She laughed and said, "It doesn't matter, it's just Xiao Xi. I'll ask her to pour me tea another day, huh?" "Did you pour tea for Lexington?" Missouri spread her hands, "Say, a dozen people are married to one person, and they are still so happy. I would rather eat a bite of fairy peach than eat half a basket of rotten pears." "But he is not a fairy peach, at most he is a nectarine, you are a peach." Helena looked at Missouri and thought that you can't escape either. As a ship girl, and her compatibility with the Admiral is so good, there are only a few people in the garrison who can keep up with the Admiral's imagination. Zeppelin had been a member of the garrison for so long, and the two of them didn't catch a cold at all. York City, the initial ship in a sense, seems to have been bullied, but in fact it has been receiving many preferential treatment, but there has been no development. Then you join the governor's office for half a year, and you are already on better terms with them than any of them. Naturally, Missouri didn't know what Helena was thinking, otherwise she would still have to refute it to some extent. Now she was just curious, will CV-16 Lexington really become N16's wife? MRS 26 is still uncertain. 16 and 26 are naturally the numbers in order. Missouri shook her head and finally returned to the topic. "Come to think of it, haha, no wonder Washington looks so strange, she let someone overtake her." Washington was angry, Helena said. "Are you angry with Colorado or with Mr. Sioux?" After thinking about it carefully, Helena shook her head, "I really don't know." "Do you think Washington will take action?" Missouri raised her head, her long hair hanging down, and then turned to Helena. "For example, go back and confess your love?" No way. Helena was confident in Washington. After all, he is a cold-blooded barrister. Think about it, lawyers are generally worse than anyone else. Maybe. Missouri pinched her chin and fell into thinking. Confession is not necessarily true, violence is possible. Think about it, Washington entered someone's room at night, then closed the door, rubbed his hands and laughed evilly. Struggling and shouting the next morning, all I saw was that the bed was in a mess, with clothes and trousers scattered on the floor. Someone was wrapped in a quilt and sleeping on the bed, with red eyes and crying. Washington leaned on the bedside and smoked one cigarette after another, and finally I couldn't help but say, "Okay, don't cry, I will be responsible." Missouri suddenly became more enthusiastic, "Maybe he will drop a wad of money." Missouri became happier and happier. She had heard someone say it before, but now she could say it out loud. "Who do you think I am? That's not who I am. I'm yours tonight. Don't treat me like a human being tonight. It doesn't matter how many people come tonight. It doesn't matter if the person coming tonight is human or not." Washington must have been a lawyer before. She should still be able to make some money. Otherwise, I can support her. Ahem. There was a sudden cough next to him, and out of the corner of his eye, Missouri saw Washington standing behind him. Although she wasn't afraid of Washington, she made fun of people behind their backs and got caught in the act, which really had a bad impact. "The little secretary needs a spanking," Washington asked. Missouri bent down and bowed. In fact, she was not sincere at all. "I'm sorry, eldest sister, I was wrong. If an apology is enough, what's the point of having police?" Missouri took it for granted. "I have already bowed and apologized, what else do you want?" Washington smiled and she raised her head. "Come on, go back." When Helena saw this, she really started to worry, but Missouri was excited. "In fact, we couldn't leave right away. It took another 2 days, until Colorado had handed over all the work, and everyone started to pack their luggage." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 698. Here at home at the frontline base, New Orleans was shaving her short green hair and saw her younger sister Quincy squatting next to the coffee table, intently watching the Admiral quickly move the 3 small porcelain bowls placed on the coffee table. "Okay, Quincy, guess which bowl the chocolate is in now," Sugu's voice said. Quincy ordered a bowl, Sugu opened the bowl, and there was nothing underneath. She suddenly expressed regret. "I clearly saw it under this bowl." "You're wrong, I'm starting to move." Sugu grabbed both sides of the blue girl's cheeks, kneading and kneading them, and finally pulled them into a pie shape. "I have to say that it feels so good in the hand that I cannot miss it once a day." Quincy rubbed her face. She didn't understand why everyone liked to pinch her face and said, "Okay, where is the chocolate?" Sugu opened another one of the 3 bowls, but there was also nothing in it. He said, "Quincy, look, there is nothing in this bowl, so it is in the remaining bowls." Without opening it, Sugu covered the other 2 bowls, knocked the bowl with the chocolate inside, and said, "Quincy, remember this bowl, I'm going to start moving again." Quincy's blinking made people feel guilty, but it made them want to bully him even more. Sugu quickly moved the 3 bowls again, like a great shift of the universe, like bagwazang, but actually more like kneading noodles. The technique was quite rough. Finally stopping, he snapped his fingers. "Quincy, guess again, which bowl is it under?" This time Quincy was very careful and believed that she was absolutely right. She stretched out her hand and poked the selected bowl, then immediately withdrew her hand. "Admiral, Quincy guessed it must be under this bowl." An imperceptible smile appeared on the corner of Sugu's mouth, but before he could open the bowl, New Orleans couldn't stand it any longer. She interrupted, "Admiral, please don't bully Akin." "I didn't bully her." "You rub her face." Sugu said, "I just want to admit defeat." New Orleans walked to the coffee table. "Admiral, let me choose for Akin, is that okay?" Sugu's face showed concern. After all, New Orleans was not easy to deal with. He was thinking about how to refuse, but Quincy came to the rescue. "No, the headless horseman is clueless." New Orleans hit Quincy on the head with his fist, and Quincy sat down on the ground holding his head. "Sister, you can't hit anyone." "Stupid Akin." Amid Sugu's dry laughter, New Orleans held down a bowl and said, "There's nothing in this bowl." Opening the bowl, it turned out there was none. "There's nothing in this bowl, Admiral, don't do anything, stay away, I'll do it." Sure enough, still not. New Orleans' expression became like that of a devil, and his voice was sinister. "Admiral, these 2 bowls are gone. It must be in the last bowl, right?" Sugu felt guilty. "Yes." New Orleans put his palm on the bowl and said word by word, "Admiral, don't bully Akin." Not wanting to suffer the immediate consequences, Sugu nodded repeatedly, "Okay. Give all that box of chocolates to Akin." With no choice, Sugu could only give away all the chocolates he bought to amuse Quincy. However, New Orleans still refused to let it go. She opened the last bowl, but there was still nothing in it. "Akin, you see the Admiral has been bullying you since morning. I thought that the matter would be over if I gave away the chocolate." Seeing that the scam was exposed and that he would never be able to play in front of Quincy again, Sugu glared at New Orleans. "I have already given the chocolate to Quincy, Headless Senior's sister, why don't you be trustworthy?" "What did I promise to the Admiral?" Quincy was tearing open the tinfoil of the chocolate with a happy face, and she immediately saw that there was no chocolate in the last remaining bowl. She didn't suddenly realize it, didn't show an aggrieved expression of being bullied, she looked confused. "Why not?" "Because the Admiral didn't put the chocolate in at all. He was playing with you." Quincy was greatly puzzled. "I obviously saw it." "Tricks, tricks, magic, the chocolate was taken away the moment it was put into the bowl." "That's amazing." Quincy wasn't angry at all, she was just stupidly happy and wanted to continue eating chocolate. Sugu sighed. Although he still had many snacks in his hands, such as biscuits, potato chips, dried fruits, etc., there was no way to tease Quincy with them anymore, at least not until the idiot finished eating the chocolate. My sister received the snacks and looked very happy, so New Orleans was also very happy. She returned to her seat, paused and asked out of curiosity, how could the Admiral have so many bullying tricks? Everyone usually bullies Quincy, but in terms of the number of tricks, they are not as many as the Admiral in total. Think more. We've gone astray. New Orleans thought to himself that the Admiral might often bully people like this in the garrison. My Yangguan Road, your single plank bridge, different roads do not work together. What, the Yangguan Road is out? New Orleans looked at the small bowl on the coffee table. The Admiral's technique of taking away the chocolate is very subtle. Who taught you that? Sugu replied, Rabbit. In order to perform well in front of the little Lolita, Sugu asked the magician Princeton for advice. It's just that due to the techniques and props, many magic tricks cannot be performed at all. And close-up magic is very difficult to begin with, and now I only know a few tricks. It is said that the beautiful dealer Princeton is so cute, so there is more than just reason for wanting to learn magic. Yes, rabbits can do magic. Sugu saw that Quincy was eating happily. Quincy can eat anything, right? New Orleans immediately became vigilant. I told you not to feed Akin strange things. Otherwise, even if he is the Admiral, New Orleans will not let him go. No way. Didn't Colorado bring home a lot of canned food, including canned herring? No. I have written down this name. I will never touch it when I meet him in the future. Although Quincy is an idiot, her sister New Orleans's IQ is definitely on point, and she has no unnecessary curiosity. Sugu waved his hand. Although he had never eaten it, he had seen many delicious pictures and delicious videos. He said, Don't worry, I won't eat a Quincy. After all, it is a weapon of mass destruction that does not distinguish between ourselves and the enemy. I don't believe it. You will definitely feed it to Quincy if you have the chance. As long as someone is unlucky, you don't mind harming others without benefiting yourself. How is it possible? I'm not an idiot, and I'm still trying to hook myself up. New Orleans immediately found evidence, the weird tasting peanuts from last time. Sugu was speechless. If he wanted to feed Quincy, he had to go through New Orleans first. In order to win people's trust, he can only eat first and hurt himself first before hurting others. Is it boring, Admiral, to bully Quincy in different ways every day? In fact, Quincy was very happy every time. Although feeding is strange, it is definitely within the scope of food, even more and more expensive. It's a sign of liking, and New Orleans isn't actually angry. Sugu pinched Quincy's face again and replied, Quincy is so fun to bully. New Orleans said, What an unscrupulous Admiral. Well, if you're bored, there seems to be a new movie showing at the street cinema. Admiral, let's take Quincy to watch it. You don't think I don't know, do you? Quincy likes to yell and scream when watching movies, or when she goes to sleep. She's not asleep yet, so I won't go with her. New Orleans was dissatisfied. You should judge a gentleman's heart with a villain's heart. I suggested it because you were bored. Besides, Akin is very well behaved. As long as you tell her not to speak, she will never speak. Sugu waved his hand. Actually, I have something else to do in the afternoon. What's the matter? I told Mahan this morning before she went to school, and she promised me. She will bring her friends back to play, a group of little Lolita. There is nothing better than little Lolita in this world. After all, she has a clear voice and a soft body. Easy to push down. Of course, if I have to say it, UG is not bad, but the flowers bloom again and people are no longer young. New Orleans was dissatisfied. Your level of fishing is not high. As long as I'm a little Lolita, I'm still a little confident. New Orleans read, Thunder, U1206. Sugu finally couldn't help but sigh. Whether it was the energetic destroyer Laming or the idiot U-1206, the former couldn't think of any good ideas. The latter might bring his 3 small submarines over and let them take action. There is some possibility. It was simply irritating that the fishing boat actually met a competitor, an admiral who looked honest but was obviously dishonest. In short, after repeated failures, I can only say that the 2 little Lolita are not cute at all, and I disdain them. I don't slap people in the face when I hit them, I don't expose their shortcomings when I scold them. Actually, I have a different target this time. New Orleans asked curiously, who? The destroyer Bailu looks much easier to deal with. Why did you ask Mahan to take it home? Didn't you run to school on your own initiative? Sugu said, it has a bad influence in the college. I think you were driven away by someone. Sugu was dejected. Of course it is necessary to salvage the boat. As an admiral, if you don't salvage the boat, what's the difference between being a salted fish? This saying is widely circulated in the admiral circle. Although it is not as popular as a famous saying, after all, it is not as powerful and ideal as freedom, democracy, prosperity, but in private, this sentence is more popular than all famous sayings. Equally famous is the so-called saying Xian does not save fate, Krypton does not change fate. There is only one taboo about fishing boats as you please, that is, never fish a boat that already has an owner. This is the same as not pursuing a girl with a boyfriend or hooking up with a married woman. Although there is no explicit legal provision that it is a crime, in terms of morality, it is indeed a principle that everyone recognizes. Of course, it's not that there aren't people who believe that as long as the hoe is wielded well, there is no corner that can't be dug down. It's just that there are very few, very rare. On the one hand, it is impossible to succeed, and on the other hand, such people will basically be hostile to others, and no one will communicate with them anymore, because no one wants to be the next victim. So excluding the little lowly who already has an admiral, the range of choices is not wide. The frontline general base was established by the shipgirl headquarters. The shipgirl headquarters would never interfere with an admiral's fishing, and would even be happy to see it succeed. Shipgirls almost never age, but when they lose their pursuit, it often means the end of their lives. Whether adults or little Lolita, many people have lost their pursuit and disappeared into the depths of the sea. If you have an admiral, you have sustenance. As a school instructor, I generally wouldn't interfere with the admiral's fishing at the school. I just go there every day, bringing snacks and telling stories, which interferes with normal teaching, so I still need some persuasion. Sugu wanted to save face and decided to restrain himself. New Orleans curiously asked, "How is the white do?" A girl at elementary school student with a stubborn head. She likes to wear side ponytails and roll up her sleeves. She has a competitive personality, but her grades are not very good. It doesn't feel like much. Sugu was dissatisfied. You don't know how cute Bailu is. As long as she's cute, that's enough. As long as she's cute, it doesn't matter anything. I remember that Mahan used to take Dyson home to play. He was a member of the Little Beavers. He was very cute. I remember there was no Admiral. Mahan has always been very popular in the academy and always has many friends. I have seen many in New Orleans. Sugu suddenly became angry. You said it was very cute. Many people must have fished the boat. The Dyson has been fished away by others. It's disgusting to say that. What a bastard to say. Say, please don't use such a strange way of speaking, Admiral. With a chuckle, Sugu glanced at New Orleans and lowered his head. It is said that the school used to have a lot of people, even the submarine heavy gunship Novgorod, but it was also taken away. It's a pity. The Novgorod doesn't have much combat capability. Yes, it doesn't have much combat power. Not only that, the speed is only 6 knots, and it can't be any slower. It is like a supply ship anyway. But she is rare, and it only appears once in the whole world. It is cute, and it is said that it will spin in a circle after one shelling. New Orleans thought for a while, then she said, there are many rare ship girls in the front line base. I remember there are also the submarine heavy gunships Thonburi, Shimekaze, and Johnston. Anyway, there are many. People who don't know, there is no way. I don't know how deep the water is, how many treasures there are. By the way, there is also the Victory, remember she is very powerful, don't you want the Admiral to fish her out? I tried it, but I didn't expect it, waiting for the kidnapping of Rodney and Nelson. I don't know what he thought of, but New Orleans suddenly muttered, there are already so many people in the garrison. It's just a matter of having an extra pair of chopsticks. New Orleans thought, you are easy. Xiao Suzy, why don't you come and see me? No one heard his voice before he saw him, and suddenly a voice rang out. Sugu was familiar with this voice, coming from Missouri. Little secretary, you can play along with other things, but this one definitely won't work. Sugu saw Missouri, who walked into the living room first, and then saw the furious Hindenburg, the serious-looking Washington, Helena, the fat South Dakota, and the newlywed wife Colorado. A girl with short red hair dressed coolly, with a frivolous voice, shouted, "Hey, brother-in-law." The blue girl has a hot figure, but she looks like an innocent girl next door. She said, "Brother-in-law, Admiral, I am West Virginia. Looking for the lost ship girl." Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 700. First of all, this is a side story and has nothing to do with the main story. Do not substitute it into the main text. Then I was helpless and got stuck. Whether it will be available later, I can't guarantee. Anyway, the extra will be provided first. This is an uninhabited island deep in the sea. There is a girl with long light blue hair tied into a low ponytail sitting on the rocks by the sea. Next to her is a box of instant noodles and a huge and terrifying steel monster named Pippi Shrimp. Pippi Shrimp Paste. In fact, the girl is the owner of Steel Pippi Shrimp, the deep-sea flagship and deep-sea light aircraft carrier Longxiang. Pippi Shrimp Paste, you know? Yamato has become so weird lately. Why is it weird? Supply Sauce Dorothy, do you remember? She looked thin when she was dressed, but she was fleshy when she was undressed. She was very cute and cute. One day she ran back crying and the resources she had worked so hard to transport were taken away, and her underwear was also stolen. She was snatched away. She was conscientious and worked hard to deliver supplies to us, but she never dared to go out again after that incident. Fukumae Yamato and I said that the human admirals are all bastards. They robbed our supplies, which are instant noodles. They also took off Supply Chan's underwear, which is an unforgivable crime. And what did Fukumae Yamato say? Although most of the admirals are bastards, not every admiral is a bastard, there are also good people among admirals. It's ridiculous, the admiral's commanding ship's wife took her own swimsuit away, and she came back naked and crying, and swore to destroy all admirals, but now she changed her mind. In the past, Yamato couldn't remember what day it was today and what day it would be tomorrow. Who told us not to go to work like humans? We would work as usual on Saturdays and voluntarily work overtime on Sundays. Pippi Shrimp Sauce, let me tell you, now Deep Sea Yamato remembers it every day. Circle the day of the week on the calendar every day and say, hurry up to Sunday. The Deep Sea Dragon Boat shook his head, Yamato never dressed up before. She even said that we are the Deep Sea flagship, a terrifying existence. What's the use of dressing up so beautifully? But now I see her reading fashion magazines every day. Why is she wearing makeup? How to match her clothes? She has 100 pieces of cosmetics, it's terrible. By the way, I look for her every Sunday, but I can never see her. I asked Yukikaze where Yamato went. Yukikaze said that Yamato dressed up beautifully and went out. I remembered that I heard Ziwahi once said, She saw Yamato standing on the beach waiting for someone, and finally a man passed by, a man wearing an admiral uniform. I didn't believe it before, because Yamato hates admirals the most, but now I believe it. Hey, Yamato must be in love with a human admiral. The deep-sea flagship actually likes an admiral, but I am not an old-fashioned parent. If it is free love, I have never objected. But Yamato looks crazy and fearless, but in fact she is stupid, naive, and stupid. I am worried that she will let the person has been deceived, and I have to guard her. Pippi Shrimp Paste, don't you think so? Men are talented and women are good looking. Men don't have to be handsome, but they must be talented. They are not the kind of people who just feed off ship wives. Admiral, I must have a lot of wives. I don't want him to divorce them all, but our family can't do that. Xiao, you must be a big woman and a wife. You must also have good character. The admiral and the deep sea are enemies, and I don't want him to be suppressed by even the deep sea ship girls, but he must not be the one who takes off the underwear of the supply sauce. Even if he is. The enemy is so capable of killing young girls, it's simply abominable. What else do you want? Shenhai Longxiang thought for a while, and she suddenly saw the instant noodles placed next to her. Forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore, I want to eat noodles, thank you, Pippi Shrimp Sauce, I'm starting. The steel Pippi Shrimp is just a ship outfit of the deep sea dragon. From beginning to end, this is just the girl talking to herself. It was finally Sunday, and Deep Sea Dragon had already laid an ambush in advance. Sure enough, she saw Yamato Fukumai dressed up and going out again. Her white hair was tied up, and her clothes were beautiful yet seductive. She followed Fukumai Yamato secretly, and after sailing for a long time, she saw a beach, and Fukumai Yamato walked onto the beach and began to wait. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. Finally getting tired of waiting, Deep Sea Dragon Xiang whispered to Steel Pippi Shrimp. Is it possible that Yamato was let off? What a hateful man, he actually bullied our family, Yamato. No, I've waited too long, okay, I saw someone coming. Deep Sea Ryajo only saw a man wearing a white admiral uniform approaching Deep Sea Yamato, and the two began to talk. The emperor was not in a hurry, but the eunuch was. Shenhai Longxiang muttered, I'm going to be angry. Yamato has been waiting for so long, and that man didn't bow and apologize for being late. No, could it be that Yamato came here early to wait? Pippi Shrimp Sauce, what did you say they said when they met? Yamato, you're already here. How long have you been here? I just arrived. No, our family, Yamato, will not be so arrogant. Let's be honest, you have been waiting for 2 hours. 1 hour. 3 hours. 5 hours. Deep Sea Ryajo saw Deep Sea Yamato walking to the beach. Pippi Shrimp Sauce, they are finally over. Yamato is here. She looks so happy. She looks so regretful. The next time we meet will be next Sunday, you must help Yamato. Who told me that I am a brave man of the deep sea who is anxious for public good and righteous? If you need a deep sea ship girl, I will be there by your side. Hey, that man hasn't left yet? I have decided to destroy the garrison and kidnap the admiral back to become Yamato's strongman. Until Fukumai Yamato left, Fukumai Ryajo sneaked to the beach. Sugu actually knew that everyone in the governor's mansion was hiding in the woods and sent Yamato Deep Sea away. He wanted to call everyone out and go back to the governor's mansion together. Suddenly there was a loud noise on the sea, a huge water column rose, and only half of a steel-skinned shrimp was exposed. Suddenly emerging from the sea, it looked frightening. The deep-sea dragon stood on top of the steel-skinned shrimp, with his hands on his hips, triumphantly saying, "Tremble, crawl. I, the deep-sea warrior, the deep-sea dragon. Don't let me do it. You. Go back with me now." Shenhai Longxiang had just finished speaking when she saw many people appearing behind the man, and she recognized them all. Lexington, Saratoga, Bismarck, Tirpitz, Akagia, many, and many more that I don't recognize. Deep Sea Dragon Siang opened his mouth slightly. Ah! The brave men of the deep sea will never give in. Kill me. I actually hit him. I felt aggrieved. The steel pippy shrimp turned into a pile of scrap metal, and the deep sea dragon Siang held his head to prevent himself from squatting. Sorry, I was wrong. If apologizing works, what do we need the police for? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 701. Watching everyone walk in, Quincy, who couldn't sit still and was still squatting on the coffee table eating chocolate, didn't care at all. Seeing that the idiot was reluctant to say hello, Marilyn snatched the chocolate from Quincy's hand. Quincy suddenly showed an aggrieved expression. Marilyn, give it back to me. Call sister. Marilyn pinched Quincy's face. Obviously, it was everyone's daily routine, eating, sleeping, and bullying Quincy. Don't bully Akin. As long as he was for his sister, he would dare to fight anyone in New Orleans. Sugu looked at him with admiration. After returning home, the group of people sat down in the living room. The originally spacious living room immediately seemed crowded. The sofa and the lounge chair next to it were all occupied, but it was still not enough, so I had to move a bench from the dining table. Normally when Quincy is here, Reputation won't prepare anything to eat because it will be eaten immediately. Seeing everyone at this time, she prepared fruits, black tea, and snacks in an orderly manner. Maryland and West Virginia looked at Sugu. They were actually at a loss at first, but they soon felt a sense of closeness. I couldn't remember his appearance clearly at first, but now that I saw the real person, the figure in my memory became clearer, overlapping with the man in front of me who looked like he had just cut his hair short and thinned it. Having already seen the photos, Sugu recognized Maryland and West Virginia. Although they are dusty, I just feel that they are much more beautiful than in the photos. He was really lucky. Because Colorado could be transformed, he leveled up the two of them. Because of the big ship, I also gained a lot of goodwill. Colorado went back home early. As a sister, she likes to talk about her sister the most, especially all the interesting things that happened in the past. Now Sugu can say that she knows the personalities of Maryland and West Virginia very well. She used to be honest, and it is said that West Virginia's personality tends to be closer to Maryland as she grows up, but now she is sitting upright and quietly on the bench, only listening and not talking. Compared to sister West Virginia, Maryland has no sitting posture at all. With blonde hair falling on her shoulders, Colorado sat on the edge of the sofa, and Maryland sat on the arm of the sofa next to her sister, placing one hand on the back of the sofa. Reunited after a long absence, Maryland is not a little Lolita. She did not chatter next to Sugu and then ask for gifts. She is not a bold girl like Wichita, so let's talk about hugging her, although her hug may hurt people. Maryland started teasingly, "The Admiral is back. I originally wanted to beat you up and break your bones." "Really? I didn't expect you to be so fast. We only met for a few days. My sister came back to the front and asked you to give her a ring. He has become my brother-in-law. How can I do it? I can't do it just for the sake of justice." Sugu wanted to say, "Why did your sister say that I gave her the ring? It should be said that she gave me the ring. She paid for all the money for the diamond ring. This is topsy-turvy." Just thinking about Colorado, as a girl, she had to save some face, so Sugu didn't explain much. Bravely admitted it. Helena glanced at South Dakota and thought that you didn't want to admit that you took the initiative to give the fat guy a ring. This would be different in Colorado. Maryland tilted her head. She knew the truth and said, "Admiral, they all said that you are cowardly and have no sense of responsibility at all. I thought you would explain something, such as the ring that my sister gave you on her own initiative. In this case, I don't care about this marriage." "Agreed." Colorado stretched out her hand and pushed Maryland away from her. Although it was like a public execution at this moment, she did not blush and lower her head shyly. She just said, "Maryland, I never need your consent for anything I do. Sisters are like mothers, but what you want to do requires my consent." Standing on the ground, he found his sister Colorado leaning on the armrest of the sofa. Maryland complained, "Brother-in-law, look at your wife." Pretending not to hear, Sugu would not be such an idiot to get involved in such a thing. Stomping her feet, Maryland suddenly became happy. She called Sugu, "Brother-in-law." Brother-in-law." Maryland smiled happily. Can I be lawless in the garrison from now on?" Sugu replied, "It's better not to take this." Despite her tomboyish appearance, Maryland could still imitate the cooing voice, and she said, "I'm your sister-in-law. We are not familiar with each other, but we are very good at dealing with people." After a few days of getting along with each other, Missouri has become completely familiar with Maryland. In fact, there is a reason why we are all sisters in the garrison. She was sitting on the bench, holding her chest with one hand and holding the side of her face with the other. "My sister-in-law is half of my brother-in-law. It seems that, Maryland, you have a lot of ideas." "Oh, I'd better not do that." Maryland bowed to Sugu. "Hello, Admiral." Missouri sat upright with a serious expression. "No matter you call him a bastard, trash, or idiot, unless your sister divorces him, you will always be the sister-in-law with half an S." Maryland's expression was ugly. Of course it was intentional, but West Virginia smiled slightly. Sugu complained, "Missouri, you must have taken the opportunity to scold me." Missouri De Ling said, "If I scold you, I would say you breed pigs or horses." Maryland said, "I'll make peace with it now. There's no other way. Half a butt is half a butt. As long as you have the privilege, you can bear with it." Missouri shook her head. "Maryland, don't you know? In someone's mind, everything from a child submarine, a primary school destroyer to a royal sister battleship is his wife. If you still want privileges, you are just a sister-in-law." Sugu sighed. Colorado was thoughtful, thinking that Helena said that these two people are very compatible. After Missouri gets married, he will be able to arm wrestle with Lexington and Prestige. It is indeed true. "That's right. Admiral, here you go." Maryland suddenly threw a large bag to Sugu. During this period, Helena repeatedly turned her attention to Washington, but finally did not speak. Sugu opened the bag and took out the items one by one, including a strip of cloth that looked like a searchlight was installed, an anchor that looked as clean as new, and a ring that seemed to have a piece missing. Helena explained, "I don't know whether the deep-sea destroyer Tau Class 3 or 4 type eye patches are used. They have completely broken free from the shackles of the ship's equipment, and even the eye patches have been pulled halfway to reveal golden pupils. It is very difficult for us to deal with them. You said she is the cutest creature among the deep-sea destroyers, so I snatched it for you." Maryland said, "The anchor is the tail of the deep-sea light cruiser. I broke it off with a lot of effort. And the headband is the one floating on the head of the deep-sea light aircraft carrier. Most people can't get these things, and they are worth the money. The spoils of war I give to you." It was indeed difficult to get. Sugu was speechless. "Thank you. Things were not that simple." Maryland cracked her melon seeds and said, "South Dakota also said she would take off her underwear and pantyhose. She said the Admiral liked it the most, but I thought it was too perverted." Helena and Washington basically did not enjoy Prestige's services, but South Dakota didn't mind. She took Prestige's peeled apple, took a bite and said, We used to peel off the underwear of the deep-sea supply ship, and last time we peeled off the deep-sea Yamato clothes. The Admiral is very happy. Sugu felt that once this topic started, it would be endless, and he would definitely be the victim. His expression was serious. Deep-sea ship girls are all enemies. Don't look at the surface, don't think of them as girls. Not underwear, not clothes. Is a trophy. Admiral, I really feel like you are becoming more and more perverted. We are like robbers. After laughing and joking for a while, Sugu looked around. To be honest, he didn't realize anything was wrong until now. He asked curiously, I didn't see Akagi and Dumplings. They are not with us. We don't know how they are doing now. They should be back soon. The two of them possess the most powerful carrier-based aircraft in the garrison, and their own skills are unrivaled, so there is no need to worry too much about safety issues. Sugu asked again, by the way, how are you doing outside? Suddenly there was a lot of chatter. Fight, 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 otherwise Admiral, where do you think all the loot comes from? Compared to our garrison, the deep-sea warships appear much more frequently here, and they basically need to attack once every 2 or 3 days. There are many kinds of capital ships, and we also encountered deep-sea battleships. Anyway, I don't know how many results we got. It's a pity that not a single ship girl has been fished out. There are no battleships and no destroyers. It would be nice if Mr. Su was here. There's actually nothing to say about fighting. The place we went to was a deserted island, and there was no place to move around in the base. There was the sea, the beach, the dense forest, and there was a cliff. I had to walk to the sea and the beach several times a day. The cliff was too high. It's too far away. I once went to the dense forest with a knife and cut through the thorns. I didn't see any unforgettable beautiful scenery. I didn't even see a clear stream. And I didn't bring a camera. I caught it. There was a bird whose name I don't know. It looked like a parrot and was very silly. It wanted to be roasted and eaten, but Marilyn said the meat was too woody, so we let it go. Playing cards and reading books, I sometimes like to sit on the steps outside the war room and watch the construction team busy on the construction site. Everyone has something to do, so I don't have any intention to help. But there are people if you ask me to help, I don't mind helping you, but no one has ever called me. I remembered that the light aircraft carrier Guadalcanal had a fishing rod. Washington once took the fishing rod to go fishing. She had a straight face and stood up straight. She looked so stupid. Washington, don't glare at me, you look like that, it's really silly. A loud noise suddenly sounded, and a group of little Lolita came running into the living room. Everyone was surprised. Little Loli was obviously frightened when she saw so many people in the living room. Admiral, the little girl you ordered has arrived. New Orleans looked at Sugu. Thinking of someone's hobby, there was no need to say more, and everyone showed disgusted expressions. The meal in the evening was ordered from an outside restaurant and taken home. It was very rich. Admiral, I heard from Helena that you are a good cook. After all, I look for Yuxian every day. Missouri, you are enough. We've worked so hard and you're not willing to show your face. I thought so too. In fact, Sugu originally wanted to show off his cooking skills, but it was too late. What can you do? What do you want to eat? The lion's head is ready. Won't. Then you still say. I'm just saying. We had a lively dinner together, and everyone talked about leaving the front line and returning to the garrison. Now they were just waiting for Akagi and Dumplings. West Virginia asked Sugu, which direction should she focus on and strive to command operations as a flagship, or should she focus on killing the enemy like her sister Maryland and not surrender even if she is injured? After chatting for a while, time flew by quickly, and soon it was late at night. Everyone went back to their rooms to get ready for bed. Sugu always sleeps with Sheng Sheng these days, but now his partner is Helena. Someone made a vague request, and someone was not Sugu. The originally tied bun was let down, and Helena's long blue hair hung down to her waist. At this time, she was wearing a silk nightgown and standing by the window. She raised her hand and tapped the wind chime hanging in front of the window. The small iron ball hit the metal pipe and made a tinkling sound, and she showed a knowing smile. Standing by the desk, Sugu was playing with the ornaments on it, including the ship in a bottle, the music box, and the handicraft conch. He suddenly said, "Maryland and West Virginia have 2 more sisters-in-law." Helena cupped her hands and cupped her hands. "Congratulations." Sugu opened the music box, but it was broken and there was no music at all. He said, "I'm not used to hearing Maryland calling her brother-in-law. I'd better get used to calling Gia brother-in-law." Helena complained, "Lexington is the real wife, Saratoga is the real sister-in-law, and no one else is. I'm just used to hearing Gia shout." Helena suddenly laughed and said, "Colorado is really brave." "Yeah, I didn't expect it at all." Sugu recalled the scene at the observation deck. Helena said, "Speaking of which, Admiral, you have no moral integrity at all, right? You agreed to Colorado's confession. What else would I do?" Helena mocked a little. "Yes, Colorado is a beautiful beauty with extremely big breasts. I admit that there is a reason they already had a very close relationship, and Sugu didn't hide it." "You passionate Admiral. Colorado has a ring, what do you want everyone in the garrison to do? Didn't you take the ring? In that case, just do what everyone should do." Helena said, "When Akagi and I got the ring, Richelieu hadn't come back yet. Well, we had a tacit understanding, but it was suddenly broken." Sugu said, "Well, actually, my real thoughts cannot be less nonsense." Helena looked serious. "I only say one thing, if you have the ring, give it to Washington first." "Why? Washington is a barrister, right?" "Washington is very cool. He doesn't seem to care about anything. For it. Do you know what Washington looked like when he saw Colorado wearing a ring on his hand?" "Have no idea. Anyway, if you don't give Washington the ring, you will be in trouble." My Admiral. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 702. At night, the chirping of insects continued, and the conversation in the room never stopped. Sugu played with the ship in the bottle. Although he knew how to make it, such as using tweezers, it still felt magical. Hearing Helena's sworn words, he thought that this girl was not a magician and would never hit the right target, so he curiously asked what was going on. "I've said enough. It's meaningless to say it too clearly. No matter what happened, it was just the Admiral who suffered." That was it. Helena was not prepared to say anything more. After a moment of silence, Sugu placed the ship in the bottle on the table again. He said affectionately, "Helena, I really can't imagine how you can even hide it from me. I don't know how life should go on." "How's life going?" "It's simple, you can go find Colorado." Helena knew very well that the Admiral could not belong to just one person. Even if she belonged to one person, as Xiaju, she really had no confidence to say anything, but it did not prevent her from complaining a little when she had the opportunity. Sugu laughed, "I just made a mistake that all men make." She flicked the iron pipe of the wind chime hard, and the tinkling sound suddenly changed. Thinking that this sentence was too much, Helena said, "He is really the most shameless man in the world." The desk was originally not far from the bed. Sugu walked back to the bed and lay down on it. He said, "But you just asked me to marry Washington. It doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what I do for you, but it doesn't mean there's no pain in my heart." Helena's face turned slightly red and she waved her hands quickly. No, it feels so disgusting." Sugu was so drunk that he said, "I like listening to it. Then I'll never say it again." Helena stood by the window and Sugu sat by the bed. The two looked at each other like this. Sugu suddenly said seriously, "My favorite Helena, are you really not going to tell me?" Helena turned to the window and saw the stars, dim lights, and the quiet sea under the pale moonlight. Thinking that there would be no disaster anyway, and maybe there would be excitement, she said firmly, "No. Sweet words don't pry open the door, so you can only think of other methods, such as threats and intimidation." Sugu stepped on the beige tiles with his bare feet that were mopped clean every day. He walked quietly behind Helena, then he stretched out his hands to wrap around Helena's neck and rested his chin on Helena's shoulder. He said softly, "Since you don't want to say it, then I can only punish you with a man's method." Helena grabbed Sugu's hand and showed a seductive smile. "What you said is that there are only exhausted cows and no damaged land." Pervert Sugu let go of his hands. "What I mean is, if you don't want to say it, then never think about me touching you again. You will know you are wrong when you are so horny. If you don't want it, don't." Sugu's expression was ugly. When the rain stopped and the clouds subsided, Sugu hugged Helena and said in a funny voice, "What kind of disaster is coming?" "Helena, this is what you are here for." Helena patted Sugu's dirty hand and said, "I don't believe it. Anyway, just wait until you die. Don't touch me again." Sugu thought for a moment. Washington was handsome, and a barrister. He was one of the few reliable people in the garrison. Although he likes to bully South Dakota and threatens others with his axe, it seems a bit dangerous. Sugu comforted himself, "Can Washington still hit me?" "No, I definitely won't hit you." Sugu said, "Even if she beats me, I don't worry. I still have a reputation, as long as I have the most powerful maid by my side." Helena said faintly, "Yes. Your maid is invincible. She can fight, take care of people, and is great at doing things. Nothing can be difficult for her, and she can also warm the bed. The most important thing is, no matter what you do, I will help you with anything for no reason. It's good to know. If this is the case, why am I in trouble?" Helena took Sugu's hand and rested it on his head. "Please trust a woman's judgment." "Okay, I believe it. Are you ready to give the ring?" Sugu felt that it was really difficult to handle. The happy night passed quickly, and when Sugu got up the next morning, he found that Sheng Sheng had already prepared breakfast. Standing in the living room and looking around, he also saw Washington and South Dakota sitting on the sofa. The little fat man looked unhappy with a straight face, while Washington kept saying something. It was obvious that she was the initiator of South Dakota's unhappiness, and that was right. Thinking of Helena's reminder, Sugu said, "Washington, you are bullying South Dakota again." Seeing the admiral appear, South Dakota immediately started to complain, "Yes, Washington bullied me again. The admiral is in charge of her. I have never seen such a hateful person." Washington was not ashamed and didn't seem to care at all. She said, "I don't know why, but I feel like I can't control my emotions when I see her." South Dakota yelled, waving his finger up and down at Washington, "Even if you can't control your emotions, you will be punished if you bully someone. Admiral, hurry up, it's her, hurry up and send her to the military police." Washington crossed her legs and put her hands on her legs. She quoted from the classics, "The criminal law stipulates that when a person cannot recognize or control his behavior, he will not be held criminally responsible for causing harm. Then if I bully you, it is completely uncontrollable matter." Of course South Dakota doesn't know any laws, so she just said, "How can there be such a criminal law? You just have it, you can do whatever you want." Washington did not explain at all, and South Dakota felt guilty after seeing this scene. Suddenly thinking of something, South Dakota said, "If you can't control your behavior, then you are a mental patient." "Ha, good mental patient Washington, send him to a mental hospital quickly." Washington spread his fingers over South Dakota's head. Violence is so amazing. She said viciously and gritted her teeth, yes, I am the mentally ill Washington. Look, I'm sick again now. South Dakota felt aggrieved, Admiral. Sugu decided to argue with Washington, it's just that he is not criminally responsible. Civil compensation is still needed. Washington said calmly, yes, civil compensation is still needed. If I own property, then use my property to pay South Dakota's compensation. By the way, if the property of the person involved is insufficient, the guardian will make appropriate compensation. Now I'm being bullied. South Dakota, it's your turn, Admiral, to finish this off, and you can compensate us in any way you want. Sugu said, you mean, I am your guardian? Washington sneered, don't have extra thoughts. Sugu thought to himself that he was not afraid that the gangsters would be able to fight, but that they would be educated. If Washington takes action against itself, no matter what it does, it will definitely be on the right side. He looked worried and just hoped that no disaster was coming. Washington asked, the Admiral wants to stand up for South Dakota. No, just go ahead and bully South Dakota, I don't know anything anyway, it doesn't matter how you bully him. South Dakota said aggrievedly, hey, Admiral, how can you be like this? Since Akagi and Essex have not returned, and the other returning ships have not come, everyone has to continue to stay at the front line base. I didn't go out to play. I stayed at home all day, either reading a book or watching the fight between Maryland and Hindenburg. It seems that these two were equally matched opponents, but in the end they actually felt sympathetic towards each other. The day passed smoothly, and the impending disaster did not come after all. Sugu felt relieved. Akagi and Essex returned home the next day, and Su asked them about their situation on the front line. Except when eating, Akagi is a quiet and dignified classical lady. Wu Cow Dumpling also didn't like to talk, and in the end only the bald eagle Belmakin was left chattering about all kinds of things. During this period, Sugu coughed and said, be more concise. The bald eagle suddenly went numb, shivered, and his voice became stammering. Maryland curiously asked why this happened, and Sugu explained the purpose of the small black cage with barbed wire that was powered on. Maryland finally understood why, and she became excited, slapping her thighs and complaining about why she hadn't thought of such a good idea. Apparently, no one except Essex seems to like the chatty hawk. Until night, nothing happened. Sugu began to suspect that Helena's so-called disaster was just to scare people. Does Washington have to wait until he returns to the garrison before taking action? It's just prestige here. When you return to the garrison, you need a lot more people to protect you, especially people like Lexington among them. Or maybe the opportunity hasn't come yet, so I'm not taking action yet. The ship was still waiting for a few days, so Sugu and Missouri went to the archives at the front line base on a whim. This is not a place that just anyone can come to, Missouri boasted. Colorado is very strong, but in terms of influence, it is really not as good as Missouri at the front line base. After all, she had not been here for many years. She had a sister and companions, and she never went out to socialize when she returned home. She is completely unlike Missouri, who has been here for a long time and is very knowledgeable and has many friends, although not too many that can be called close friends. Sugu flipped through the files. He actually came here to look at the photos. He only saw a woman with black hair and a woman with white hair standing on the sea in the photo, and the sea breeze blew their long hair and clothes. Not to mention beautiful and charming, these two really have a pair of big white legs and long legs. How's it going? You haven't seen these photos before, right? Tisk, 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 I'm so fascinated by them, do you want to lick off the bones of Kagakaga's thighs? Sugu started to laugh. He usually joked with Missouri, but he was not prepared to maintain an image, I don't know if the bones are broken by licking, but the tongue must be numb after licking. Abnormal Missouri smiled. Sugu picked up another photo. A white-haired woman was lazily sleeping on a strange ship uniform, with the sky full of carrier aircraft behind her. This is the answer from a Missouri friend who serves in the archives, Abyssal Flagship Kamikaze, Abyssal Road Base Airport. How is the strength? Sugu had never seen this person in the game. Although he had heard the name before, he only knew that he was very strong, but he didn't know how strong he was. Strong, rather scary, like a monster. Even if a lot of people are dispatched, it will be difficult to gain air superiority in front of her. If a ship girl with weaker air defense is in front of her, she will be cut off. She can open, bomb, able to bombard and fight at night. It can be said to be an all-rounder. She seems to have the unimaginable ability to completely defend against torpedoes. Fortunately, she is entrenched in the deep sea and basically does not move, and the speed is too slow. As long as you don't provoke her, you will die. She will die, in the waters near her, no matter what the reason. Ships must not approach her. Sugu just briefly understood it and made a decision in his heart. The data was too terrible. He could still win if he wanted to, but the losses would definitely be huge. He would never take the initiative to die. In other words, he was not as cute as Fortress G. After looking through the information, it turned out that Yamato Abyssal is the cuter. Although he looks so mad and fierce, he is actually the weakest among all the Abyssal flagships. He just likes to cause trouble everywhere, and then has people press him down and rub him on the ground again and again. In comparison, other deep-sea flagships do not have so many failure records, and the model worker is indeed right. After looking at various information on the deep-sea flagship, unfortunately there are no photos of Fortress G, nor of deep-sea turpets. After leaving the archives in the afternoon, Sugu and Missouri happened to meet the tall lady with long blonde hair at the front line base. She invited everyone to the party to thank them for their help. Sugu didn't want to go at first, but he was warmly invited, and Missouri reminded, "This kind of party is not the kind of party you usually attend, it's all admirals. Most of the people attending the party here are ship girls, and they are basically homeless ship's mother. Although not everyone is as easy to deal with as Hindenburg, with my help you might be able to salvage the boat." "No need to think too much," Sugu immediately agreed. "I went home and informed everyone about this. Missouri likes this kind of party, but many people like Hindenburg, Akagia, Essex, Maryland, etc. don't like it." Sugu didn't expect Washington to be willing to participate, and then he saw Washington in costume for the first time. Normally, he just casually ties a piece of cloth into a ponytail, but now Washington had his long white hair tied up and pinned on a beautiful blue headband. His handsome face looked softer due to the light makeup. He was wearing a well-fitting blue evening dress that outlined the perfect curves of his body. The blue high-heeled shoes made him walk seductively, making him really graceful. "Washington, you actually like this kind of dance?" Sugu only saw Washington with one hand on his hips, blowing a kiss with the other hand, and smiling slightly. "Parties, dances, and cocktail parties, this is the place that belongs to me." Washington's attire struck a chord in his heart. Sugu thought to himself, so this is the impending disaster that Helena said. Yes, it's simply too scary to resist such charm.